You know, there's a specific kind of social anxiety that kicks in when a waiter hands you a wine list that weighs more than your dinner plate.
Mm.
It's that sinking feeling that you are about to be tested on a subject you didn't study for in a language you don't even speak.
Oh, the imposter syndrome of the dining room.
Yeah.
It's a very real phenomenon.
It's totally real.
Yeah.
And we've built up this fortress around wine. You know, velvet ropes, unpronounceable French geography, and frankly, a lot of intimidating chemistry.
Yeah.
But the guide we are using for today's deep dive, he argues that we've been looking at it all wrong. We shouldn't be treating wine like a specimen to be dissected in a lab.
No.
We should be treating it like a character in a novel.
Which makes perfect sense, considering our source material today is A Hedonist in the Cellar, Adventures in Wine by Jay McInerney.
Right.
And for anyone who only knows McInerney as, you know, the literary brat pack icon who wrote Bright Lights, Big City, this might seem like a strange pivot.
A really strange pivot.
But this collection of essays is fascinating because he brings a novelist's eye to the cellar. He isn't looking for pH levels, he's looking for the narrative arc.
And that is really the mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We are not going to give you a lecture on viticulture or soil composition.
No, please no.
We are going to try and extract McInerney's cheat codes for understanding wine, the personalities, the metaphors, and the stories that actually make the liquid taste better.
Yeah.
Because that is his core thesis, isn't it? That the story changes the taste.
It absolutely is, and he's quite explicit about it.
Okay.
He argues that wine appreciation is, well, it's fundamentally subjective. It's about memory. He has this great line where he calls wine a lubricant that stimulates conversation and a sacramental beverage.
Yeah.
He's upfront about it being an intoxicant. He doesn't shy away from the buzz, which, you know, a lot of critics pretend doesn't exist.
Right, they talk around it.
They do. But he differentiates between drinking to forget and drinking to remember.
And his own memory of where this whole obsession started is, well, it's not exactly a chateau in Bordeaux, is it?
Not even close. It's a place called the Westcott Cordial Shop in Syracuse, New York.
The Bouzeteria.
Right. He calls it a bouzeteria. And this provides such important context because this was back when he was a student studying under the legendary Raymond Carver.
Wow.
So by day, he is learning literary minimalism and dirty realism. And by night, he is selling Night Train and Wild Irish Rose to what he describes as hardcore, low-budget alcoholics.
I mean, the visual is just so stark, he's literally dodging stick-ups at gunpoint.
Exactly.
But in the downtime, he starts reading these dusty old wine books the owner left lying around. It's almost like a Goodwill hunting scenario, but with fortified wine.
That's a great way to put it. And that leads to the pivotal moment. He gets his first novel accepted for publication.
Right.
And he wants to celebrate. He doesn't grab the MD 2020 or a six-pack of beer. He splurges on a bottle of 1978 Smith-Hout Lafite. A serious Bordeaux.
A huge step up from Night Train.
A giant leap. And he admits, looking back, was it objectively the best wine he ever drank? Probably not. But because of the moment, that triumph of the book deal, it tasted like nectar.
And that's the McInerney rule we should keep in mind through all of this. The occasion creates the flavor. But he didn't just stay a fan. He became a columnist. And I love the anecdote about how he justified that career pivot, especially given his literary fame.
The Julia Roberts story.
Yes. He initially turned down a profile of Julia Roberts because he had this highbrow self-importance. You know, he was a novelist after all.
Of course.
But then he realized that writing a wine column was a similar no-brainer.
Yeah.
He could get paid to pursue his obsession. But because he's an outsider, he brings this fresh language to it.
That's the key.
He compares wines to actresses, to rock bands, to authors.
Which is infinitely more useful than just saying hints of blackberry.
So much more useful.
When you compare a wine to an actress, you immediately understand its personality. Is it loud? Is it elegant? Is it aging gracefully? You get it instantly.
Okay, so let's get into the actual juice. McInerney breaks his adventures down by style, and he starts with the whites. Now, usually, when people want to signal they know wine, they talk about big, heavy reds.
Always.
But McInerney pushes back on that. He starts with his absolute obsession, a wine that I honestly think most people have never even heard of, Condrieu.
Yeah, it is a bit of an insider's handshake wine. Condrieu comes from the northern Rhone Valley in France and is made entirely from the Viognier grape.
Viognier, okay, that's tricky, right? I feel like I see it occasionally, but it's not a staple like Chardonnay.
It's incredibly tricky. It's low in acid, it's prone to disease, and it is really hard to grow. McInerney compares choosing a favorite wine to choosing a favorite Beatles song. It's impossible.
Sure.
But he lands on Condry because it is so distinct. He says it tastes like white peaches, his favorite fruit, and explicitly evokes Gauguin's Tahitian paintings.
I want to pause on that comparison because it is so vivid. Gauguin's paintings are lush, they're exotic, they're almost overwhelming in their color and sensuality. He is saying this wine isn't intellectual and sharp. It's fleshy.
Fleshy is the perfect word. He calls it a wine for lovers, not fighters. And technically, that's because it lacks acidity. In wine school, they teach you that acid is the backbone that lets a wine age. It preserves the wine.
It's a skeleton.
It's the skeleton. And Condry doesn't really have one. It falls apart if you keep it too long. It is built for immediate hedonistic pleasure.
So if you see a bottle of Condry on a list, specifically from a producer like Guigal or Vernet, the move is to order it and drink it now. Don't save it.
Right. Drink it now. Guigal actually helped save the appellation when it was nearly extinct in the mid-20th century. He has a label called Le Dorian that looks like an Art Nouveau poster.
Oh, wow.
And McInerney says the label perfectly matches the taste. It's just decadent, floral, and unapologetically romantic.
Okay, so that is the obscure romantic choice. But then he pivots to a wine that is famous for all the wrong reasons.
Sauve.
I feel like Sauve is the wine punchline of the 1970s.
It was the fuel of ignorant youth, as McInerney puts it. We all have that image of the giant 1.5-liter bottle of Bolla Sauve.
The green bottle.
The green bottle, yeah. McInerney describes seeing the lime green warehouse from the highway in Italy. It was industrial farming, high yields, flavorless grapes, basically water with alcohol.
But he argues that Sauve has been rehabilitated. This is a classic underdog sports movie narrative within the wine world.
It is, and it's driven by two very different characters. On one side, you have Roberto Anselmi.
Okay.
McInerney paints him as this Porsche-driving, black Prada-clad modernist, a total perfectionist.
How the cool guy.
The cool guy. And he was so frustrated by the lazy laws allowing bad wine to be called Sauve that he literally divorced the region. He took the name Sauve off his labels because he felt his wine was too good for it.
That is a serious power move. I'm not Sauve, I'm Anselmi.
It's a huge statement. And then on the other side, you have the traditionalist, Leonildo Pierrepont. He's the opposite. The guy in the cardigan, the homebody. But he proved that the Garganega grape, that's what makes Sauve, can actually have mineral depth and almond notes. It can age.
So the takeaway here is, don't judge a wine by its reputation from 1980. If you see a Pierrepont Sauve, grab it. It's complex, not insipid mouthwash.
Exactly. The good stuff is out there.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room regarding white wine. The ABC crowd. Anything but Chardonnay. McInerney documents this massive shift in California Chardonnay from the Baywatch era to the modern era.
That is the perfect analogy. He describes the 90s style of Chardonnay as Pamela Anderson, fat, loud, and sunburned.
Which means what? Technically, I know oaky is a descriptor, but what is actually happening in the bottle there?
Well, it's a combination of things. You have high alcohol from very ripe grapes, tons of new oak barrels, which gives you that vanilla, toast, butterscotch flavor,
Okay.
and heavy malolactic fermentation.
Can we define that? Malolactic fermentation. It sounds like a disease.
It sounds terrible, doesn't it? It's actually a secondary process. After the yeast turns sugar into alcohol, a specific bacteria converts malic acid, which is tart, think green apple, into lactic acid, which is soft, like milk or butter.
So that's where the buttery Chardonnay comes from.
That is exactly where it comes from. And in the 90s, winemakers cranked this up to 11. You're basically drinking a vanilla milkshake.
And McInerney says the reaction to that was the thin is in movement.
Right. Winemakers started looking for elegant, racy, and nervous wines.
Nervous. That sounds like a bad thing. Like the wine has anxiety.
It sounds bad, but in wine speak, it's a huge compliment. It means high energy, high acidity, that skeleton of the wine we were talking about.
Okay.
McInerney quotes Robert Sinsky, a winemaker who put it brilliantly. You don't want a milkshake with your fish.
No, you do not.
You need acid to cut through the food. So you see producers like Brewer Clifton making inox Chardonnay. Inox means stainless steel.
So no oak barrels.
No oak, no butter, just the naked fruit. It's a total rejection of that Pamela Anderson style.
Before we leave the whites, we have to touch on the sommelier's secret, Riesling. I feel like this is the hardest sell for the average drinker because everyone assumes it is going to be syrup.
It's the biggest misconception in the wine world. McInerney compares drinking a great, dry German Riesling to inhaling a small electric eel.
That is such a visceral image. It implies a shock, a jolt.
It's that tension between ripe fruit and bracing acidity. And McInerney makes a really practical point about food pairing here. We're eating more Asian food, more Thai, more Vietnamese.
Sure.
If you drink a bone-dry Cabernet with spicy lemongrass soup, the wine is going to taste bitter and metallic. It's awful. You actually need a little bit of sugar to handle the spice.
So the sugar acts as a kind of fire extinguisher for the heat.
Exactly. Well, the acid cleans everything up. It's the perfect match.
And he gives us a great way to distinguish between the two heavy hitters of Riesling, Germany and Austria.
Yes, this is a great mental shortcut. He says German Riesling, specifically from the Moselle, is apple pie with lemon juice. It's softer, more floral.
Okay.
But Austrian Riesling from the Washoe is like a samurai sword slicing a lime and a peach.
Great bone strikes.
Exactly. It's sharper, drier, often has more body, more alcohol.
And for anyone terrified of reading a German wine label, which looks like a Gothic nightmare,
They are intimidating.
McInerney gives you two words to look for: Cabinet and Spitleys.
Right. Cabinet is the lightest style, lower alcohol, perfect for lunch. Spitleys means late harvest, so the grapes stayed on the vine longer. It's richer, more intense, but still has that electric acidity.
Yeah.
If you know those two words, you can navigate the electric eel section of the wine list.
All right, let's cross over to the dark side.
Yeah.
Segment 2, the reds. And McInerney starts with the one that sounds exhausting: Amarone.
Romano del Forno, who is the master of this style, calls it an extreme emotional wine.
It sounds like a teenager.
It kind of acts like one. Amarone comes from the Veneto region in Italy. It's a dry wine, but it mimics sweetness because it is so massive. We are talking 15, 16, sometimes 17% alcohol.
Whoa.
And the way they make it is just bizarre. They don't just crush the grapes. They harvest them, and then they let them sit on bamboo mats in attics for months to dry out.
Wait, in attics, not cellars.
In attics, correct. They want airflow. They are literally turning the grapes into raisins
Aye.
to concentrate everything, the sugar, the flavor, the acids. McInerney calls it turbocharging the grape.
Yeah.
So when you finally ferment that raisin juice, you get these huge flavors of dates, figs, black licorice, leather.
He calls it the perfect primer wine. Why that?
Because it is not subtle at all. If you are learning to taste wine and someone says this tastes like figs, in a Pinot Noir you might struggle to find it.
Right, you're searching for it.
In an Amarone, the fig smacks you in the face. It's loud. It's obvious.
And the personalities match the wine. You have Del Forno, who McInerney describes looking like a weather-beaten James Gandolfini. Intense, uncompromising.
The modern powerhouse. And then you have Giuseppe Quintarelli.
The resident saint?
He's the old guard, the traditionalist. He works in a cellar that looks medieval. While Del Forno is about power and modern intensity, Quintarelli is about contemplation. But both represent this idea that wine can be extreme. It doesn't have to be polite.
From the attics of Italy to the warehouses of California. This was my favorite cultural snapshot in the book. The shedistas of Santa Barbara.
Yes, this just overturns the whole Falcon Crest image of California wine.
Completely.
We usually think of Napa, grand gates, manicured lawns, wealthy owners. But McInerney takes us to Lompoc, specifically the wine ghetto. And these are just aluminum-sided industrial sheds.
And the winemakers are not landed gentry.
No, they're guys maxing out their credit cards. They have day jobs. McInerney compares the vibe to Silicon Valley in the 70s or Paris in the 20s. It's scrappy and communal.
They share equipment, right?
They share equipment. They taste each other's barrels. It's this amazing collaborative spirit.
And what are they making in these sheds?
Mostly Syrah. And the reason is purely economic. Pinot Noir grapes became way too expensive because of the movie Sideways and the general boom.
Ah, the sideways effect.
The Sideways effect. So Syrah was the affordable alternative. And you have the duo Brewer-Clifton. Again, Greg Brewer was a French professor. Steve Clifton was a rock guitarist.
That sounds like a sitcom setup. The professor and the rocker?
It works, though. Their aesthetic is sushi chef minimalism.
What does that mean?
They want to do as little as possible to the grapes. They aren't trying to impose a style on the wine. They're trying to let the fruit speak for itself. Get out of the way. It's a very different philosophy from the big corporate winemaking world.
Speaking of distinctive styles, let's talk about the black wine. Cahors. This sounds like something a villain drinks in Game of Thrones.
It has a very butch identity, as McInerney puts it. Cahors is a region in southwest France, and the grape is Malbec.
Oh, Malbec.
Yeah.
But not like the Argentinian stuff.
Not at all. Everyone knows Malbec from Argentina today. It's plush, it's fruity. But original French Cahors is a beast. Peter the Great supposedly drank it to settle his stomach. They used to use it to punch up weak Bordeaux wines because it was so dark and tannic.
So McInerney suggests this isn't a cocktail wine. You don't just sip this on its own.
Definitely not. You do not sip Cahors by the pool. This is a wine for a high-fat, high-protein diet. Duck confit, cassoulet, foie gras.
The tannins need something to fight against.
Exactly. The tannins, that drying sensation in your mouth, need fat to bind to. If you drink this with the salad, it will strip the enamel off your teeth. But with duck fat, it is magical.
Finally, in the red section, we have to talk about the heartbreak grape, Pinot Noir. Why does this grape drive people so crazy?
Because it's the most transparent. It has very thin skin, so it's incredibly sensitive to everything. To heat, to cold, to the soil, to the winemaker's mood even.
It's temperamental.
Very. And McInerney has a section here called the imitative fallacy. He realizes he keeps equating the winemaker's personality with the wine itself.
The examples are hilarious. He talks about Denise Shirtleff, who makes this delicate, lacy Pinot, and he compares her to Mia Farrow.
Right, a very specific, delicate persona. And then there's Lane Tanner, who makes a bolder, spicier Pinot. She tells him, "My wine is the other woman, definitely not the wife."
Which is a hell of a marketing slogan. I'd buy that.
It tells you exactly what to expect. Excitement, maybe a little danger, not long-term commitment.
Ah.
But McInerney also takes us to South Africa, to Hamilton Russell Vineyards. And this shows the agricultural reality of Pinot. It's not just poetry in a bottle.
What do you mean?
Well, the winemaker there is dealing with marauding baboons and finding prehistoric hand axes in the soil. It reminds you that before wine is a luxury good, it is farming. It's a struggle against nature.
So we've covered the grapes. But McInerney is a novelist, and novelists love characters.
Yeah.
Segment 3 is where we meet the mad scientists.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to start with Michel Chapoutier and the Rhone. This guy sounds intense.
Hypomanic is the word McInerney uses. Chapoutier is a dynamo. There's a story that he walked on a broken leg for 2 months before seeing a doctor because he was just too busy.
That tells you everything you need to know.
It really does. He's a fierce competitor. When someone asked him what wine pairs best with asparagus, which is notoriously hard to pair because it makes wine taste metallic.
Yeah, it ruins wine.
Chapoutier just said, "The perfect match for asparagus is my competitor's wines."
Brutal. That is just savage. But he's also deeply philosophical.
He is. He's a major proponent of biodynamics.
Which is what, exactly? Is it just organic farming?
It's organic plus mysticism. It involves things like burying cow horns filled with manure according to the lunar cycle.
Okay, that sounds weird.
It sounds completely weird. Scientists roll their eyes, but Chapoutier calls it homeopathy applied to plants. His goal isn't just clean wine. He wants to remove all the chemical noise so the terroir, the soil, the place can speak clearly.
He has that line, "The brain is a pleasure killer."
Yes. He thinks if you analyze the wine too much, you ruin the experience. He compares it to making love. You don't need to be a gynecologist to enjoy it.
That seems to be a recurring theme with the greats. They want to bypass the intellect and hit you in the gut.
Absolutely.
Speaking of bypassing the intellect, let's talk about Randall Graham of Bonnie Doon. McInerney calls him the bizarro twin of Robert Mondavi.
And it's so true. While Mondavi was trying to make California respectable and copy the French nobility, Randall Graham was just making jokes. He is the undisputed king of puns.
He has a wine called Cardinal Zin.
Cardinal Zin, a critique of pure Riesling, and the famous Le Cigare Volant.
The flying cigar. Where does that come from?
It's a reference to an actual municipal decree in Châteauneuf-du-Pape from the 1950s that banned UFOs, which they called flying cigars, from landing in the vineyards.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. It's a real law.
I love that Graham named his flagship wine after a piece of bureaucratic absurdity.
It shows his irreverence. But underneath all the jokes, McInerney points out that Graham is a serious innovator. He was pushing for screw caps way before they were acceptable for premium wine.
He got a lot of flack for that, didn't he?
A ton of flack. He also created the D.E. Nunn Club, the distinctive esoteric wine network, basically to force people to try weird grapes. And he rails against what he calls the Viagrification of wine.
The Viagrification.
The trend of making wines artificially powerful, over-extracted, and hard. He wants wines that are elegant and drinkable, not just impressive for 2 sips.
We also have a character from my neck of the woods, New York, Willie Frank.
Willie Frank is the voice in the wilderness. He is described as highly caffeinated, strident, and he speaks in the third person. Willie rips up 50 varieties.
He had that amazing quote about yeast.
Oh, it's the best. Sulfur gives wild yeast a headache so they don't go into an orgy.
I'm never going to look at fermentation the same way. An orgy of yeast.
It's an incredible image, but his contribution is massive. Everyone said New York was too cold for Vitis vinifera, the real European wine breaks like Riesling and Pinot Noir.
Right. They said you could only grow Concord grapes.
Exactly, the grapes that taste like foxy grape jelly. Willie Frank proved them all wrong. He showed that the Finger Lakes could produce world-class Riesling. He was a true pioneer.
We have to close this segment with the Smith brothers of Smith Madrone. These guys feel like they walked out of a Western movie.
They look like Grizzly Adams. Beards, mountain men, the whole deal. They operate on Spring Mountain in Napa. McInerney describes their location as Prelepsarian Napa.
Napa before the fall.
For the fall, before the limos and the $100 tasting fees.
And their equipment sounds unique.
He calls it Rube Goldberg machinery. It's held together with duct tape and hope. They dry farm, which means they don't irrigate the vines.
Which is very rare in California.
Very rare. It forces the roots to go deep into the mountain to find water, which creates these intense, complex grapes. And the biggest irony is, in the heart of Cabernet country, they are making world-class Riesling. They are doing everything wrong by modern commercial standards, and the result is just incredible.
Okay, so we met the rebels in the sheds and the mystics burying cow horns. Now, let's put on our tuxedos. Segment 4 is the expensive dates. These are the wines that cost more than a car payment. And McInerney starts with a story that gives me secondhand anxiety. The blind tasting at the dinner party.
This is the classic wine snob nightmare. He arrives late to a high society dinner. The hostess hands him a glass of red wine in front of everyone and basically says, okay, Mr. Wine Columnist, what is it? The ultimate test.
The pressure.
Yeah.
And he nails it. He guesses Haut-Brion, 1982. How? Is it a magic trick?
It's about recognizing the tell. Every great wine has a signature, a fingerprint. And for Haut-Brion, McInerney describes the smell as cigar box, Monte Cristo, black truffle, hot brick, and old saddle.
Hot brick and old saddle. It sounds terrible when you say it out loud, but I know exactly that smell. That dusty, earthy, savory smell.
It is so specific and savory. Haut-Brion is the oldest brand name luxury wine in the world. Samuel Pepys wrote about drinking Haut-Brion in London in 1663.
Wow.
Thomas Jefferson bought it. It's known as the first growth of poets and lovers because it's not just about power, it's about that complex, earthy nuance.
Then he moves to another legend, Cheval Blanc, White Horse.
This is on the right bank of Bordeaux, and the key technical difference here is the grape blend. Left bank Bordeaux is mostly Cabernet Sauvignon. Cheval Blanc is largely Cabernet Franc.
And the texture difference. He uses a fabric metaphor that I love.
It's so good. He says if other Bordeaux is scratchy Harris tweed, sturdy, maybe a little rough, then Cheval Blanc is cashmere. It's silky, it's seamless. He compares it to the writer Turgenev, earthy but sophisticated.
We have to mention the 1947 vintage of Cheval Blanc. It's often called the greatest wine ever made.
And yet, technically, it was a disaster. It was a freakishly hot year. The fermentation got out of control. The wine has high volatile acidity, basically vinegar notes, and tons of residual sugar. It almost tastes like port.
So by the textbook, it's a flawed wine.
It's completely flawed, but in the glass, it is hedonistic perfection. It just reinforces McInerney's point. Greatness isn't about following the rules. It is about the experience.
We can't talk about luxury without talking about the New World attempts to replicate it. We have to talk about Bond.
Bond is the project of Bill Harlan in Napa, and he wanted to create a stable of thoroughbreds. The concept is fascinating. It is virtual single vineyard.
What does that mean, virtual single vineyard?
Usually, a domain or an estate owns the land. Harlan doesn't own all these vineyards. He has long-term contracts where he controls everything about the farming, total control. But the wines, Melbury, St. Eden, Vicina, they don't say Napa Valley in big letters. They sell the brand. It's like buying a luxury handbag. You are buying the Bond name and its consistency. It is the ultimate cult Cabernet, rich, flawless, and astronomically expensive.
So, we've drunk the wine. Now we have to argue about it. Segment 5. The critics and philosophers. And McInerney introduces us to Kermit Lynch.
The great contrarian importer. If everyone is going right, Kermit goes left. He's based in Berkeley, connected to the whole slow food movement in Chez Panisse.
Right.
And he famously asked, why is it that most men don't like fat women, but they think they like fat wines?
Ouch. That is a provocative question.
He is attacking that Pamela Anderson style again. He believes in authentic wine. He hates filtration because he thinks it strips character. He says modern Bordeaux tastes like California Cabernet, lipstick and high heels.
So he wants wine that tastes like its place.
He wants wine that tastes like dirt in a good way. He wants somewhereness.
And then you have Aubrand Noir, who takes that dirt preference to a comedic, almost grotesque extreme.
Noir is the son of the novelist Evelyn Noir, and he treated wine writing as a vituperative art. He thought you should find mortal enemies in wine. He wasn't looking for balance, he was looking for extreme character.
You look for flavors like rotting wood, sewage, and French railway stations.
Yes.
I have to ask, what does French railway station imply? Is it urine and coal dust?
I think we can safely assume that's what he meant, but to him that was character. That was interesting.
Right.
He was a jilted lover, constantly searching for the heavy, swarthy burgundies of his youth. McInerney points out those old wines were probably adulterated with strong wine from Algiers or the Rhone to give them color and body. But Noir missed that filthy style. He hated the clean, hygienic, modern wines.
It just highlights how incredibly subjective this all is.
Yeah.
One man's sewage is another man's Grand Cru.
And that is the perfect segue to the final battle. Michael Broadbent versus Jancis Robinson. The old guard versus the new.
Broadbent was the old guard.
The ultimate old guard. He had 137 identical notebooks, obsessed with vintage charts, very, very British. He thought Americans sniff and talk too much and should just drink.
A man after my own heart.
And then comes Jancis Robinson. She's the new wave. She was the first critic to take Australian wine seriously. She demystified wine for McInerney. She represents the open mind, while Broadbent represents the closed classical tradition.
So, bringing this all back to the McInerney way, we've gone from shedistas to old saddles. What is the takeaway for the listener standing in the wine aisle today feeling that anxiety?
I think it's permission. Permission to ignore the chemistry and the jargon. McInerney talks about sensual satori. It's about letting the wine trigger a memory or story in your own head.
Right.
If a wine reminds you of a rock band, say it. If it tastes like electric eels, say it. Your description is as valid as anyone else's.
The brain is a pleasure killer. That's the quote we have to remember.
Yeah. That's the one. And also, permission to explore. McInerney argues we are in a golden age of diversity. You can get a weird, unfiltered wine from a shed in Lompoc or a cashmere smooth Bordeaux, so don't just drink the same Chardonnay every night. Be a hedonist. Explore the cellar.
I love that. Life is too short for boring wine. Thanks for diving in with us on this one.
Cheers. My pleasure.
We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive.